Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
And my name is Tyler. Together we make up Kovray, a couple that loves to play board games.
And Viticulture.
Yes, because that's a board game.
And the process of making wine.
Wow, yummy wine.
Now today we're going to be telling you about a brand new expansion for
Viticulture.
and that is
Viticulture World. Wow, so expansive. Exactly.
Now this is a cooperative expansion. And Viticulture traditionally is a
competitive game.
So it's quite different.
Yeah.
We're very excited to tell you a bit more about it.
Exactly, so stay tuned.
What are they staying tuned for?
Watching that video.
Oh, but they're already here.
Yeah, exactly. So they have to keep on watching to learn more.
I see. Now, Viticulture World is designed by Mihir, Shah, and Francesco Testini. And the art is done by Andrew Bosley. Wow. And again, this game is published by Stonemaier Games. Now, as a disclaimer, Viticulture World will be coming with 2 cards that will replace 2 of the cards in the game box. Now, this is due to the culturally insensitive inclusion of 2 world figures that really have no place to be in this game and no place to be in any game, celebrated in any way whatsoever. But Maggie and Amy do a much better job of explaining this than we ever could, and you should definitely check out their video and the design diaries of what led to make this decision. It's really important and something that we really believe in and we really support. So do check out that link down below.
And all this to say, like Ilya just said, we really appreciate individuals who take their time to educate us and build a safe space around the community, both content creators, gamers, and publishers, designers, the whole walk life of all board games. And when things like this come up, it's very important, at least from our perspective. We come from a space of being very privileged and not being able to resonate with some of the things that are happening within the game because we do not have those lived experiences or historical experiences that necessarily impact individuals on the level that we see in some games. And I think that it's really hard to see, but it's also our belief that we need to be open-minded and respectful of things that go on in the world, and really as a gay couple, we have things that we look for that haunt us, that do impact us on a level, and I think everybody needs to find a space where they can empathize and be connected and strong and community build and all of these important things to just generate a safe space for everyone.
Yeah, because games are about having fun. And I think I am really grateful for this opportunity to really dive in and take a look at how some design decisions we could see, even from our perspective. We actually haven't had the chance to play the South America continent yet. And when us looking at it, we might have said, oh, there's a disclaimer. It's saying there's some words here.
This is our privilege.
Yeah, and we might have actually respected that hey, they're doing a really good thing here. But in the reality, if there's still a disclaimer, but there's still really harmful individuals that you can use for a benefit and that have your own lived experience in that, I think there's, yeah, exactly like you said, that's our own privilege kind of coming into it. So that's something that I think we'll be more mindful of seeing these disclaimers and really trying to understand, like, we have our own lived experience, but how could it affect somebody else?
And we really appreciate when folks like Amy and Maggie take the time to really explain what their experiences are and educate us on things like this. So we're happy to listen to them, learn from them, and also see the steps that Stonemaier in particular are willing to take after realizing what happened.
Yeah, I know the publisher's learning from this experience as well. Yeah. Well, make sure to check out the design diaries, make sure to read and listen to the video yourself as well. But shall we dive into our thoughts of Viticulture World?
Yes, we're still going to talk about the game. We're going to give you a little bit of an overview first, like we always do. So let's dive right into that.
Sounds good. So as we mentioned before, Viticulture World is a cooperative expansion for Viticulture. So you'll need the base game to play, But there's a new board that comes into play with this expansion. The game takes place over 6 rounds, and your goal is to individually score 25 victory points, but as well move to the final place on the influence track. Now you'll do this like in the original game, planting and harvesting wine, completing orders, potentially inviting visitors in, and all sorts of other fun mechanisms. Now each round takes place from spring to winter, and in spring you'll flip over a new continent card, which will depict a little bit of historical background and some of the actions depending on the continent you're playing. Now there's 7 different continents in the game, and each one throws a variety of gameplay into this game. This can be a bit of hand management, a bit of personal goals, a cooperative game within a cooperative game, and much more mechanics that you'll see from each of these continents. Now, the other thing to note is there are now innovation tiles. So these will be revealed each of the rounds, and you can go to this space right here, pay some coins, and adjust and modify spaces on your board to help support each of your teammates. Now, as well as modifying those spaces, you can open them up. As you know, in viticulture, spaces are restricted to worker placement. Now you can upgrade it by buying an innovation tile and letting as many players go into that space as possible. The other quick addition we'll talk about is that you may have noticed these little hats that are yellow and blue. They signify summer and winter. So typically you start off with workers with 2 summer hats and 2 winter hats, and you're able to upgrade them by taking the hats off. Now, when you upgrade them, you can place them anywhere, and you're able to gain the benefits off those innovation tiles as well that are placed to open up the space. You work with your teammates to complete actions. Also, by placing the Grande worker, you're able to exchange and trade some of the cards that you have, some of the resources that you have, in order to reach that ultimate goal collectively. This will be driven by the continent you play, obviously, but by the end of the 6th round, if all of you have reached the 25 victory point mark and your influence track is at 10, you will win the game. Will you cooperatively discover winemaking across all the world?
Hopefully. So, what do we need to know?
What do we need to know? Well, I think the main part is this is an expansion.
Yes.
It does seem like a standalone game because it's very, very different.
Well, you're going from competitive to cooperative,
yes.
So yes, yeah.
I think there's a lot of like those core like bases of viticulture where you plant grapes, you harvest grapes, you make wine, and then you fulfill that. So that cycle is still there.
Well, actually, I'd emphasize that even more than that. Like, in order to play this game well, you need to know how to play viticulture. The way that the game is set up, like if you don't at least understand the flow of the game in terms of making wine, fulfilling orders, or like the key actions that bring you to success in the game, then you might have a hard time getting this game like to the table and successfully completing the continents.
I will go as far as and say that if, for example, you have a friend who really loves co-op games and does not play any co-op like competitive games whatsoever, I still think it's important for them to play the original viticulture first.
Yeah.
Like, I feel throwing someone into this game and teaching the cooperative aspect of Viticulture World and the base of viticulture would be a lot all at once. And even for a seasoned gamer, I think it's a lot to take in. So there are introductory continents that could maybe help that. They're very much walk you through it. And I know with each expansion, there's a introductory continent kind of comes in play as well. That's super easy and very hard to lose. But it's still a difficult experience to wrap yourself around.
You can still lose. Like, that's the thing. You still end up
losing.
Because the first time we played it, we were, well, actually every single time we've played this game, we've been very close to losing the game. And the 6th year is really like where it comes crunch time, which is actually another probably highlight that we'd bring to the game. I think
that's a good transition. I think so. I think my and a lot of people's kind of mark of a good cooperative game is when you look at each other at one point on the table, you're just like, how are we gonna do this? Like, this is impossible. Like, why? Like, let's just give up. Let's just start over. Like, there's no way. But then somehow
there's a way.
Somehow you're able to turn it around and win, and that feeling is absolutely incredible. We've had this feeling, I think, at least twice in this game.
I'm pretty sure
almost every time we played it.
Well, okay, you have. I've been very confident that we were.
You're just like, we're gonna win regardless of what. But even like we played the toughest continent, which is Africa, in this game, and and halfway through the game, I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's no way we can do this. And we turned around, and it just feels so good when you get to that point. So I really appreciate the game for that. And I think it's a good showmanship of a good design. So
yeah, and I think where the cooperative piece also shines through is particularly with the innovation tiles and the open information. Because, like, if you're very familiar with the game, you can end up being somebody who is, like, particularly just generating a lot of money or selling a lot of goods, or wines and grape particularly. Or you can be the person that is completely just focused on, like, farming and filling orders. So, like, there are a lot of different strategies amongst players that you can take, and it's very fun to be able to, like, plan, because you talk to each other about this. Like, if you get a good card, or if I get a good card, I can give it to Ilya. There are a lot of things going on, but in particular, the innovation tiles really, really, really help the game flow, because they provide, most often to not, extra card draw, extra money, more ways to get
they make the
points.
actions
They just
better.
make the
Yeah,
actions
they make the
a
actions
lot
better.
better.
Yeah, I think the innovation tiles are the heart of the game. Like,
Yeah.
if you did not innovate in this game, you're not going to do
Good
well.
luck.
There's no way you would win.
Yeah.
So I think the flexibility of seeing the ones that come up and trying to utilize them in the best way can sometimes shift your strategy too.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And because I know there's been strategies where we got, like, the one on the very bottom that shows, like, you can exchange 1 for 2 or something like that, and we've really funneled in there and went all in on that. But I think it really depends on the strategies that come out and the way that you can kind of use those bonuses as well. But if there's any tip or any takeaway, it is to innovate.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Because it'll make your lives easier.
And the game is really drawn, like, again, to kind of what Ilya was saying, is like those innovation tiles get replaced every year. So if you're like, oh, that can wait, no, it can't. It has to happen this round because it's gone next round. So that's also another thing that, like, really drives the game, is like, if a good innovation tile comes up, you need to figure out how to get it. Not only that, but you need to figure out how to get it in summer, because that's where the action is.
That's true.
And then you can plan ahead using those actions. I don't think we can stress enough.
You can trade money because you need more money to make it work. So that's the whole collaborative aspect of it. I think that's a really good transition to talk about kind of the alpha gamer aspect, because I know that's always a concern with cooperative games. I think my preface to any conversations that have to do with alpha gamers is tell your friends to not be
do
jerks. Like, it's not always the game's responsibilities to manage your friends and your communication and relationships. But having said all of that,
I mean, fair.
I think this game does a really, like, it'd be really hard to alpha game in this game, in my perspective, because of what Tyler kind of said earlier. It's like, you all have different roles. I love in this game to be lazy and plant not a ton of wine, but really focus on the visitors and seeing, like, oh, if I play this visitor, I can get 2 victory points here. I can benefit the team if I play this visitor. And I really like honing in on that and really focusing on trying to make the best of the visitors, because if there's something that I draw as well, I can trade it to other people and let them use the benefit.
And then there's me, who just ends up playing Viticulture as if there was open information. So I do it, like, almost, not, I wouldn't say solo. I definitely have conversations with everybody and say, like, my thoughts and 2 cents on things. But, like, my board, if you looked at it, would be probably very similar to what it would look like if we were playing the competitive version of Viticulture.
Yeah, and I think that cooperative element is always like, help. I don't think I can do it this round. I need to go here. I can't do this. Because there's so much going on, there's no way one person be like, you're going to have to plant this red wine in order to fulfill the order that I have here, which I'll trade you here, and then you'll have to do this, and you cannot draw any people, so don't go here, but maybe you'll have to move over there. And then, like, one person cannot, like, if you have a friend like that, that's...
Basically what we're trying to say is, even though alpha gaming is possible in this game, there are things that are happening within Viticulture just based on the game mechanics that really help mitigate that alpha gaming. So if that's a concern for you, I think that it's a safe bet for us to say that, like, you probably won't come across it.
And if you got really confused their whole conversation because you don't know what alpha gaming is, it's basically when one person takes over the whole game.
Yeah, like they're just guiding everybody.
And telling everybody what to do.
Actually.
Just telling everybody what to do, and it makes the game a little bit less fun for everybody else. So the other element of the game is there are seasonal workers. You start off with 5 right off the bat. You don't need to kind of obtain more. And you only stay with 5. You can never have 6 workers. You're always with those 5. 4 in a grande.
Yep.
And 2 of them will be seasonal workers for the summer, and 2 of them will be for the winter, as denoted by the
hats.
fun little hats.
Love that, yeah.
So I really enjoy this part of the game because when you upgrade a worker, you actually take off their hat. And it's so tricky to know, like, which do I take off, the summer hat or the winter hat? I'm gonna use these actions more, or like, what do I do and how do I balance
it comes down to like what role you're playing in the game.
So I really appreciate those, and the hats are just quite fun.
And then I think we said this already, like in our overview, but those hats, like once you removed them and you have innovation tiles down, when you place your worker on it, like you can activate the oval benefit, which is very important because it ends up like there's a lot of different benefits that can
give you a coin, give you a card, and really benefit you in different ways, for sure.
Exactly. The other thing that we actually didn't mention here is that they have included the like mama and papa workers in reverse colors.
Yes.
So like the cool thing about that is now what you can do is take the mom and pop cards from the old or the original Viticulture, combine them all together into their colored stacks, and then it is a nice like inclusive way to
have 2 mamas, 2 papas. So that is a huge, because that was one of our biggest, I guess, critiques of the first game, is because you can never have a papa and papa. So I'm like, Tyler, we're just not meant for winemaking. We can't do it.
I have a whole other thought about the mom and pop cards, and I just don't understand why you get them at the beginning of the game and then
just never use them again.
But that's, again, it's fine. I get it, and I appreciate it because
it's a cool variation of
resources. Like you're basically just like inheriting the winery, right?
That's
so
true.
Yeah.
But yes, this is a great step. Very happy to play with 2 papa and papa cards, or just mix them up and see what happens. So last thing we'll talk about is the continents. So there are varying lengths of complexities and mechanics in each of the continents, and you can be really drawn to any of them, and they all have replayability as well. The first time you play them, they recommend to play them kind of in order, but then you can mix the deck and make it a bit more difficult, depending on like what historical events will happen, what specific cards will be drawn. And that makes the game really exciting. There's some that I've enjoyed more than others. There's some that I want to come back to and play again because they're so much fun, but we haven't got through all of them yet, so we have to do
we have played at least one from every difficulty level.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. I do appreciate, I'm excited to go back to even just the few that we've played, to introduce the additional cards that can like vary the game just for that scenario.
And it's really cool. I like the premise of it kind of being all over the world. There's a little bit of like educational tidbits here and there as well, which is really exciting. And yeah, overall it's just a great experience.
Yeah, especially if you like cooperative games. I will say that I'm more invested in the competitive version of Viticulture, but this is a very nice like difference, I guess.
I really, to me, like this actually really stood out as a cooperative game because it hit all the the boxes for me for a cooperative game. Like it was that very tense, like we're not gonna win, but then we win, and it feels so good that we've won. There's that element where I'm like, I need help, and people actually have to kind of rally around and help me a little bit, and it's definitely become one of my favorites to pull out if we're playing a cooperative game. So I'm excited to play more and share it with more folks.
I also agree. I think it's a pretty good cooperative game. Again, I prefer the competitive version, but that's just the type of gamer that I am. Yeah, I guess like...
What game, I guess for a question of the day.
Sure.
What game that is competitive would you want to see a cooperative version of?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it is very interesting that they've taken this experience of Viticulture and turned it into a
I'm trying to think of like
cooperative.
a really like take that game.
Oh, I wouldn't. I don't think that there's any extreme take that game that I could appreciate being a cooperative
But it'd be
game.
interesting to see. Like
It'd be a completely different game.
The first one for me to kind of jump up is it'd be really interesting if Villainous was like a cooperative game. Because how would that even work?
I mean,
how would that even work? Do you have one in mind?
No, I do not.
Okay. Well, let us know in the comments down below what game that you think should be, or not should be, but you'd be curious to see from a competitive standpoint to a cooperative standpoint. And if you enjoyed this content, make sure to hit that thumbs up button that subscribe button, do all the YouTube things, ask any of the questions. We're happy to tell you more about Viticulture World, and we'll link down the pre-order and all the information if you want to learn more about Viticulture World, if you want to go and read through all the design diaries. And again, make sure to check out all those links that we link down below.
Exactly. But until next time, this is us
Whining
out.
Ah.
Oh, we're whining. Whining and dining. Bye.